Bow, 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 bow.
And another one.
We don't have a direction.
We're gonna fucking find it.
What we want to say.
We're gonna find it.
It's we're gonna put this together.
This might be an episode that slaps you in the face.
Might
be an episode that makes you feel validated. I don't know. We're gonna find out.
It might not. We're gonna
find out. Here's the thing. There's probably going to be a lot of thoughts and opinions, but the hope is that we're also going to give you some valid tools or direction. But ultimately, we can't fucking tell you what to do.
No. First and foremost, you got to make that choice. But here's the thing. We never said this was going to be an objective podcast. Okay. We are very subjective here. These are our fucking opinions. I don't need your opinion. Do what I fucking want. Yeah. So we decided to start a podcast so we could talk about our feelings and mental health and put them out there. So you might need to take a shot with this one. So, and that might be a shot of humbleness. It might be a shot of tequila. It might be a shot of hot sauce. We don't know. You pick up what serves you and put it down if it doesn't. Okay.
We don't even have a name for this episode, but we know that it's episode 93.
We do.
We know that.
We do. We just came off of my fucking lecture on atomic habits. I apologize that you had to listen to me for
we just came across her thesis or dissertation.
I just did my atomic habits. You can now call me Dr. Mari, doctor in neuroscience. Thank you. So,
not literally, we're not doctors. Please
can't
don't
even figure out can't even figure out the right side to cough on. Did it again. I was like, whatever. Again, buy a $200 mic. Don't use it.
I try to edit out the coughs as much as I can.
Yeah, this is just I hang my clothes on this mic. just fell. I just probably broke it. Anyways, okay. So what are we talking about today, Steph? I'll start. So we have been asked, there's another episode we're going to do on this too. So it's not like a series or like a two-parter, just 2 specific questions from 2 different people. So this inquiry is about what to do after you make the decision to stay when your partner has cheated. Mm-hmm. And this is specifically for when your partner has cheated, not when we're not going to flip it for like if you have cheated and your partner stays. We're not doing that.
I think that's a whole different episode.
Yeah, and you could probably use the atomic habits thought process and reverse the steps.
Correct. Yes.
If you want to.
Yes.
So where are we starting with?
I was going to say, do you want to start with your opinion on the matter and what you would personally do? I don't expect you to talk about history unless you want to, but like, this is a subject that is touchy for a lot of fucking people, right? Mm-hmm. For some people, an affair or going outside your relationship is a 1000% fucking no, I'm leaving. For some people, it's I'm willing to work on this with you. For some people, it's like, I don't know what the fuck to do. I want to stay, but I kind of want to leave. Like it's not a cut and dry thing for everybody. If it is for you, okay. Cool. Like
you don't need to listen.
You
to
do
this.
you. Yeah. Yeah. Your mind's made up. Yeah. Correct.
Mine's made up.
Correct.
So it's completely fine. But what we're not going to do is shame people who would like to listen to this episode and potentially need it and whatnot. So, I guess we could talk a little bit about history. I mean, I don't know how in depth I'm going to get. However, I was in a marriage before. I was cheated on. I think there were a lot of different moments in our relationship that definitely by the end of it it was so toxic, and it just made sense for us to split. But I mean, the cheating started when we were young. It wasn't like it was this one time, like, oh my gosh, it was there was multiple things, multiple moments I can remember in the many different apartments and places we lived, and going through phone in the middle of the night and finding shit that it was that fuck around and find out. And I sure did find out and got my feelings hurt many a times, and was hell-bent on staying, was hell-bent on making it work. I don't think at that time I could have understood like why I was hell-bent on making it work, but as I look back now, I think it was more so like I had been with this person for so long, like it just like I didn't want to give all that time up, and I
Or
invested
insecurity, maybe.
energy. Yeah, insecurity for sure, because I think I've talked about in some of our body image episodes. It was not a stick by no means, and that's what was in. And so, this is the first person who had shown interest in me, and so I was like, oh my gosh, like this person really likes me and blah blah. And I settled for a lot, but I also know that a gigantic portion was because I did not recognize my worth. I did not have self-love. I did not do things that made me feel good for myself. I didn't pay attention to me. I didn't pour into me. I didn't do any of that. Like it was just putting my head down and grinding, getting to the next step and the next step and the next step until I realistically woke up and was like, what the fuck?
Back then, whether it was the first time or, I mean, any of the times that you found out, did you ever blame yourself? Like baby Mari, did she blame herself at all? Because I know 36-year-old Mari would never.
No, God, no. And bitch, I'm 35 right now. Okay.
Okay, soon to be 36.
I have some months. Don't do that to me. Don't you do that to me. I'm just kidding. I could give a fuck what my age is. I really don't care. I'll probably care at like 75. I'll be like, oh my God, we're really getting there. If I get so blessed to see 75, I should really shut up because tomorrow is not promised.
It's true.
I will say, no, I don't think I ever blamed myself. I don't think I ever was like, it's me. It's my fault. I'm the problem. But I also didn't realize, like, bitch, you are worth so much more. What the fuck are you doing? You know what I'm saying? Like, I was just like, I felt so wronged. And so like, I just wanted to feel vindicated. I wanted answers. I wanted to know why. And I felt like if I knew why, then there could be decisions made, or we could do whatever. And don't get me wrong, I definitely there was an attempt to blame me and or behaviors and or things that were going on. But realistically, the issue in the relationship, you're not showing up in my love language. So I'm not going to show up in yours.
Sure.
My love language, words of affirmation, acts of service, none of that was being met. So why the fuck am I going to show up in your love language of physical touch? I don't want to do shit with you. I do not want anything to do with that because I don't feel loved. So how am I just going to sit here and do whatever you want to do when I don't feel loved? And then that's where the discrepancies came. Well,
I can remember early on, and it wasn't even probably in our marriage. It was probably when we were dating, but we'd have talks about like, what would you do if I cheated on you? And I can remember telling him like his prized possession. I was like, I would fucking take a bat to that motherfucker and ruin your life. Right. But then as I got older, I was like, that's not even worth it. And then as I got even older, I remember talking about this. I think it was when it might have been the first time we had like a serious talk before we decided to get a divorce, but like cheating came up. And I remember saying to him, like, I wouldn't blame you if you did, because I was so not present in the relationship. Not that he ever would, like he never would have. And I know that, but I remember saying that and looking back, like, I don't know. I don't really know where my mind was at that point, besides like just completely detached from everything.
Well, and I just made so many excuses as to why I couldn't leave, as to why I wouldn't leave, why I couldn't. Our finances were too enmeshed. We had a house, we were married, we had a daughter, blah, 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 blah. All of these fucking things until I literally do not remember the day, but I remember it was December 2014, January 2015. And I feel like I woke up one morning and I was like, I am so fucking unhappy. It had to be fall 2014 because I had started going to medical weight loss. And that's really when I started
Not in 2014. We met in 2014. Our first movie date was January.
I do remember that. That's why I was trying to a little bit specific about kind of like when that timeline was.
And then again in February when 50 Shades came out.
I felt like I was losing a little bit of weight then because I was
we were both at our peak of like, because those Christmas pictures I have of us in our ugly sweaters, that was December 2014.
How embarrassing.
So medical weight loss was like 2016, like the beginning of 2016.
No. It was
end of 2015.
It was, it was fall 2015. It was fall
because I started working out in August of 2015 and you had already been working out. So yeah.
So then it was spring.
Probably like summer. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was spring because I remember summer 2015 being a fucking mess. It was because that's when, oh, yeah, okay. 20, yeah. Ooh, what a fucking mess. Anyways, so I remember at some point in January to April 2015, waking up and being like, I'm so fucking unhappy. I am so unhappy. And why am I doing this? Why am I staying? Why am I doing it? Like, what is the fucking purpose of this? Trying to make all of this work because of all of these expectations or unknowns to then just be worried about this potential. Because the thing with cheating is that it's going to happen again. It's going to happen again. And you're going to find out again. And that gut feeling that's telling you to look in a phone or look in emails or check text messages or do, whatever that it check someone's location, whatever that it is that fuck around and find out. I can't tell you how many times I had that gut feeling and I checked and I was like, oh my God.
Do you think it's possible for somebody to do it once and never do it again?
I feel like I'm too biased to answer that.
That's fair.
I feel like I'm too biased to answer that. I really do. I feel like I really struggle. I struggle with my personal experience and I struggle with being a therapist and having the thought process that everybody can change. And I am a full-hearted believer in that. If I did not believe that to my core, I would not do what I do.
Correct.
I do believe that people can change. And I do believe that people make mistakes out of an emotional mindset and that they do absolutely regret them. I do. I wholeheartedly do. I think though, with my personal thought process, if there is a repeated pattern, I guess that's where my bias kicks in. If there's a repeated pattern and there is found repeated steps, that's where it's like all bets are off. All bets are off. Because I guess
your bias with that is like my bias with addicts.
And I would agree with that as being my bias as well. Like I won't work with addicts because I need a win. I have to see some sort of progression, which I think that's why that's my issue, is because I was like, okay, I'm willing to recognize, even though there's been multiple moments, that let's put the work in. Let's go to marriage counseling. And we did. We went to marriage counseling, and after 4 months, the marriage counselor was wrong. He favors you. It's this, it's that, and the other. And I think that's where the moment that I woke up, because it had to be like April or May. It had to be, because we had been going, because I said, like, this is a last ditch effort. Like I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. And we did go. And after, like, I put in the work. I remember pouring my heart out, making a lot of connections. He was a great marriage therapist. And then it being turned around as like, well, he favors you. And it's that, blah, 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 with this, that, and the other. And that's when I was like, what am I doing? Why am I trying to convince somebody to see my worth when I could just take the steps to recognize my worth and potentially get into a different relationship if and when the time comes, to be able to then have somebody who recognizes my worth. I don't want to be in a relationship where I feel like I need to check somebody's phone, where I feel like I need to check their whereabouts, find their location, know who their friends are, check, like, ask people what they're doing, try and check. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that.
And I've honestly never been in a relationship like that.
Well, that's all that it was. And I feel like at 27, I was like, I'm too fucking old for this. And now at 35, bitch. Yeah, I would get out. I will say that is the one thing that, when separating from my marriage, taking space to date people, Steph, who we had on the podcast for the finance episode, and we were talking about dating, because I mean, I had been with my partner for forever. Like I didn't have like young dates. I didn't have any of that. Like
they started dating in infancy. So just so you guys know, they're like out of the womb. They basically started dating.
8th grade dance, and then started like on and off dating all throughout high school. Like I never went on dates as a young adult or anything like that. So when Steph and I were talking, she was like, just treat it like, you're just picking up things here and there. This is something that I like. This is what I'm not comfortable with. Okay, I'm okay with this. And just, you're using it as just gathering data, gathering information, and then putting that forward and making these not rules, but like things that you're qualities that you're looking for in a relationship, of what's important to you. And my 3 non-negotiables were, you're not going to yell at me, period. I don't care what it is. You're not yelling at me. I'm not going to go through your phone. Either I am too insecure and I need to do the work based on past relationship, and or there's some sort of problem that we're having here, and I will never not be in a relationship that I can't communicate. And I'll tell you, in those dating moments, I absolutely had to leave potential relationships because those things came up. And it was hurtful, absolutely, but I wouldn't be where I am today had I not set those boundaries and listened to myself. So I think it's hard for me to say, okay, well, what would you do to come back from somebody cheating? Like, what would be the next steps? How would you continue the relationship? And I think my first and foremost would be, there's clearly a breakdown in communication. Clearly. So first and foremost, there has to be a vulnerability moment here. There has to be communication. There has to be this discussion of like, what the fuck are we doing here?
I was just going to say that it's all about being vulnerable.
Yeah. And having that open, like, this is my expectation of the relationship. What is your expectation? How are we going to meet each other? How are we coming together to figure out how we can move forward from this? Because this is disrespectful as fuck. And what I'm not going to do is stay in a relationship where I'm being disrespected.
Well, and what you hear a lot is that people go outside of their relationship, marriage, whatever, because they're unhappy with their partner. First and foremost, if you're unhappy with your partner or something isn't being met, the expectation is that you tell them versus just going to get it from somebody else.
I can't tell you how many times I've had people, well, I did tell them. How? How did you tell them? Was it in a roundabout way, beating around the bush, or were you very direct in the sense that these are the needs that I have in this relationship and I do not feel that they're being met? Here is how I would like my needs to be met. What needs do you have in this relationship? How can I meet those needs? Like, having that direct conversation. If you can't have that direct conversation, you got no business being in a relationship with that person.
Well, and
Period.
sometimes it might not even be a sexual situation that's not being met.
No.
And
Oh my
sometimes
God,
it
no.
might, sometimes it might be like
Sure,
that
sure,
might
sure.
be a thing, right? Like that there might be something lacking
But it's
sexually
both.
that you're, yes.
Sure.
But I do think that it is much more than that. I'm working on this certified sex informed therapist or professional. I'm not sure what the certification is called, but she is a sex and marriage counselor because she feels that you have to do both of those things in order to be successful when it comes to, you know, sex therapy, if it's a marital issue. And she talks a lot about what happens like after cheating. She has a whole book on it, like what happens when you cheat, and then like relationship after cheating, and how to get like the sex that you want and things like that. And I think it's very easy, especially when you're with somebody for a long time. Well, it doesn't even have to be a long time, but I'm just, her example of the couple that we're watching an example is like they're married for 20 years and they haven't had sex in a year.
No.
And that is what is considered a sexless marriage.
Yes.
And both of them are like, I mean, like, we're just so busy and like sex can go to the wayside. But here's the thing. Sex is a really integral part of a romantic relationship. It's a human need. And I get it. There's asexuality. I get it. Please hear me when I say I get it. It's a spectrum. Typically speaking, it is a very important part for people to feel close to one another, to feel connected, to feel loved, to feel appreciated. So when that's lacking, lots of things can happen.
Absolutely. And again, if there's no communication behind it, like, I mean, case in point, my previous relationship, I'm not going to have sex with you if I don't feel like any of my needs are being met. That's not what we're doing. I'm not a fucking prostitute. Like, we're not.
It's sex worker.
I'm not doing that. I'm not, like, you can't be bothered to do the dishes or put our child to sleep. But yeah, you after a fucking 12-hour day, I'm supposed to be spread eagle or ass up it. No, I'll fucking kiss my ass. You're out of your mind. You're out of your mind. Miss me with that. Absolutely not. So again, there has to be communication, and communication surrounding everything. I mean, so many times I think that you were finding this out in the training that you're doing, and I've done the Gottman training, which is like the gold standard for marriage and couples counseling. If you are not dating your partner, if all you guys are talking about is just logistical shit, then what the fuck are you doing? There has to be that continued knowledge and exploration of wanting to get to know each other, and that can be sexually and not sexually. There's so many different aspects that flow to this. But if, again, bare minimum, if the damage has been done, the repair has to start with communication. That's how we got to this point. needs aren't being met and nobody's talking about the needs being met. And then it goes back to the trust episode that we've done, which we based it off of like listening to Cara Lowenthal's Unfuck Your Brain podcast, her trust episode, and then we made one. But realistically, it's not this like proverbial carrot you're dangling over the relationship of like, well, now you got to earn my trust back. That's not what it is. If you're understanding that your partner has made this, I was going to say something, but I can't even think of it, that made like, if your partner has done this
made a decision.
Yeah, cheating, and you're making the decision to stay in the relationship, first and foremost, it's not going to be raking your partner across the coals for the cheating that has happened. You're not just going to keep bringing it up. We're not going to do that.
Because you're choosing to stay. And so there has to be an acceptance of this. There has to be radical acceptance of like, this situation happened. I can't change it. I can't take it back. But in this training, and I didn't get this far yet, she talks about how you need to then reestablish new rules of this new relationship. You're starting over.
Absolutely. And so you've had expectations of this person. I expected you not to cheat. You went outside of the relationship. So now we need to set new expectations. And then both of you having that vulnerable conversation can decide if this is the relationship for you or not. Because if the expectations that you want to set is that you're not going to be texting anybody, I have full-fledged use of your phone, I can look through everything, you can't delete anything. First and foremost, that's not a fucking relationship. You're somebody's mother. Move the fuck on. Move on. You do not have time to parent somebody who did not come out of your vagina. Good fuck goodbye. Or your stomach. I don't care where they came out of. But if it's not your baby, you do not need to be parenting somebody like that. First and foremost. Is he an employee? Or is she an employee? Like, why are you micromanaging this person? That's the whole thought process. You really want to live a life where you need to have all of these expectations and expect them to be met just because this person behaves in a way that you expected them not to. And again, wanting to be a therapist and believe that everybody can change, I absolutely do. Actions speak louder than words. How are we coming together to figure out how we can have this compromised on set of boundaries that we both feel, or expectations that we both feel comfortable with, versus this like, well, you can't do this and you can't do this and you can't do this and you can't do this. And or taking a passive approach where you just don't say anything. And this shit just continues to happen. And you're like, well, I'm just going to stay. Then what are we talking about this for?
Well, it also goes to like how so many couples and people in general share their location with people. Again, and I've said this before, the only time that I think that is appropriate is A, if it's your child, and B, is if you are going on a date with somebody and like you don't know them and your best friend has your location. Or like your parents, right? Like other than that, nobody needs to know where you are 24 motherfucking 7. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, in 1997, my mom left the house. I didn't know where the fuck she was till she got home.
No idea.
Must have been blissful for her, because now people can find me wherever I'm at. Great. Just like, you know what I'm saying?
Literally, it's disgusting. It's it's like there's just the codependency that is just being cultivated. This just toxic relationships of I need to know where you're at all the time. When I tell you, I set those expectations of getting into a relationship, I do not want to feel the need to check somebody's phone. No. I've been together with Jeffrey for over 6 years. I have never once in my life thought that I needed to check.
Or even looked over at him when he's on the couch and been like, who the fuck are you talking to right now?
Every once in a while, like I'll fuck with him. Like I was just talking to him in between sessions and his phone dinged and I was like, who the fuck is texting you? Like just fucking around with him. I don't give a shit. I don't care.
Yes.
Leave if you want to. I know you're not gonna leave if you want to. I'm not, what I'm not gonna do, I'm over 30. What I'm not gonna do is think that I need to chase another goddamn human being. There is billions of those people on this planet. Are you fucking joking me? If you can't love me the way that I know that I deserve to be loved, you can fucking leave. Goodbye. Are you joking me? Oh, this is something that I get so passionate about.
Well, when
I
talk flip about side,
the proverbial table. I know what I bring to the table.
I have nothing to hide in my phone, but I would absolutely feel violated if somebody wanted to go through my phone.
We need to have a conversation.
Do you know what I'm saying?
I absolutely know what you're saying. What are we doing?
I would hand you my phone, right? Like I would hand you my phone without question. Like I don't really.
And then we're going to have a talk. But we're following it up. What I am not doing,
like, especially if it's a partner, right? Especially if it's a partner, because there are things that I talk about with my friends that my partner doesn't need to know.
No.
Right? Because it's their business, or it's my feelings that like I'm sharing with them about something that I didn't share with my partner. Because newsflash, you don't have to share every fucking thought with your partner.
And I'm not gonna.
You don't have to. You know what I'm saying?
Gonna,
That doesn't make it doesn't.
I'm
mean
not
that
going to
you're
talk
keeping
about
secrets.
weird girl body things
Correct.
that I go through with
My
Jeffrey.
ingrown hair with you. Okay.
I'm not. We're not peeing. We're not taking showers together. I'm not peeing with the door open. He's not like, hey, get this pimple on my ass. I'm not doing it.
You're not like, hey, look this nipple hair I have. What's happening?
Okay. Are you joking? And I'm just changing. Like, no, it is nothing to do with my comfortability with Jeffrey. It is everything to do with the fact that I enjoy my relationship. And there's some things that I don't want to have the crosshairs there.
You're not gonna come in here and brush your teeth while taking a shit, okay? It's not
I cannot tell you my old relationship. When I tell you, I'd be like, what is happening? How did we get here? I'm not comfortable with this. It was never discussed. You're just doing this. I'm not comfortable with this. Do you want to take a shower? No, I'm not washing my asshole in front of you. Get out. Get out. Now, I don't know what that has to do with cheating, but
privacy, like having privacy.
Get some space and some boundaries and shit. Like, what the fuck?
Okay, so let's talk about boundaries. So what would be a healthy boundary post affair?
This is where you lose me. Because bitch,
for you, it's a non-negotiable. You would leave. That's what you're saying.
So it's so hard for me. Right in the headspace that I'm at and the work that I've done on myself, I love Jeffrey through and through to my absolute core. I really do. He is my person. What I went through was absolutely necessary to get to this relationship, to be able to appreciate the love that I'm given. If he cheated on me, get out.
I would help you light his Jeep on fire. Just so
oh my God, I'd blow it up with a grenade. I told my brother-in-law has grenades. I would the pin like a fucking movie, the clip off. I'd be Rambo. I'd have black paint under. No, I'm just kidding. But like it gets to the point where not even like get out. You don't know how to love me how I deserve to be loved, and I do, and I will find somebody else. Am I going to be sad? Oh my God, I'll be heartbroken. Absolutely heartbroken. But guess what? I've done fucking harder things in my life. There have been so many things that I've gone through in my life that this is the bare minimum, and I'll get over it. No fucking problem. So I don't know how to set boundaries after that, because the space that I'm in right now, I'm not bargaining my fucking worth for anybody. I'm not. So that's what I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. I think
that there has to be clear expectations and understandings of what you will and will not tolerate moving forward, right? Regards to everything. And here's the thing, you're going to have uncomfortable, vulnerable conversations. So for example, if somebody went outside of your relationship to get something sexually fulfilled that you did not do, we need to talk about it. Is this a hard limit of like, I'm not comfortable ever doing that? Then your partner needs to know that. Your partner should know that regardless. You guys should be openly talking about sex, what you want, what you don't want, your limits, your desires, your fantasies, things that you think are interesting. Those should be regular conversations you have. If you can't have those with your partner, something's wrong. Something's wrong. So if your partner went outside the relationship sexually to get something fulfilled that you could not do, you have a conversation about it. If their reasoning was something entirely not having to do with sex, if it was just, I was hammered and didn't know what I was doing. First of all, that's not an excuse.
Well, then we need to talk about your drinking
issue. We need to talk about your drinking, right? We need to talk about your partying, right? What are we doing?
Because like, what I'm not going to do is like go murder somebody with my car because I was drunk driving and be like, oh, well, like I wouldn't murder somebody normally.
Yes.
It was just because I was drinking. Like what? Like, that's the same thing. That doesn't make any fucking sense.
My like prideful attitude that has gotten much better, but I think an issue that I have sometimes is you are not about to have me out here looking dumb, right?
Girl, yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like you are not about to make me look stupid.
Bitch, I was mopped with the streets. I was mopping the streets. That's how I was, bitch. I was the cleanup crew. I was so embarrassing. It was so embarrassing. It was so, and so for so many years, just accepting less than I deserve. And I think that's why I've gotten to this point right now of like, you can leave. You can leave.
But on the flip side, to challenge that though, you and I have both done so much work to understand that somebody else's behavior is not a reflection of me. motherfucker, you're out here looking dumb because you cheated on me. Right? Like
dumb as fuck.
Right. So
Dumb as
like
fuck.
first and foremost, we can just kind of throw that out the window, but there is this idea of if I stay, people are going to judge me. Honey, people are going to judge you regardless. It doesn't matter. If you want to stay and work on this relationship, that is 1000% your choice. But there has to be acceptance that this situation happened. If you are constantly reliving it and remembering how it went down, remembering the fights, remembering the conversations, picturing your partner with another person, you're not accepting it. You're living in the past, and you are never going to be able to move forward with that person.
And please hear me when I say this, when we're saying accepting, it's your choice. Your choice if you want to stay. We're saying if you choose to stay, then you are accepting that this has happened, and you are accepting that you're willing to move forward with that having happened.
And you're accepting that you can't take it back. You're not condoning it, saying like, oh, I don't care. It's fine. That's not what that is.
No, acceptance doesn't equal approval. Acceptance just means that you're not going to fight reality of what has happened. But please understand that when we're saying that you have to accept the fact that this happened, and you're not going to sit here and rake your partner across the coals for the rest of their fucking life because you chose to stay, that's what we're talking about.
I do think that as somebody who's like an obsessive thinker who has like thoughts that that I can't let go of, I do think, so say for example, I was with somebody who cheated on me and I would get these intrusive thoughts about the affair, or if I randomly one day was picturing them with another person, I think there's something to be said about having that vulnerable conversation and just saying like, I'm in a really weird mental spot. Like I'm thinking about you with other people. I know that it's not factual, but like, that's where I'm at. Say that. Call a spade and say that. Say it out loud, so you're not just like reeling in your own head and then lashing out at them because they have no idea what you're going through. Does that make sense?
Give your partner the chance to help you combat that. That's part of walking the middle path. You first must accept something before you can change it. And part of the tips to find the middle path is checking out your assumptions, and or vice versa, checking out having your partner help you challenge the perceptions that you have in your head. Like it's just back and forth of like, people can't read your mind, and you also need to challenge your perceptions with other people or the situations. So you first must, in order to accept something, like in order to change something, you have to accept it first. So in order for you to change this relationship, you have to accept that this part of the relationships, this discrepancy or this disrespect has happened. And understand, okay, how do we move forward with it? That it comes to vulnerable communication. If you guys are not communicating, it's not going to change. Nothing changes if nothing changes. If we're not going to talk about what has happened, what are we doing? What are we doing? You have to talk about it. And there has to be an active effort made. You guys determine what those boundaries and what that effort looks like, because every relationship is different.
Correct.
What is good for one person isn't going to be good for another person. And what is like, it doesn't matter what our perceptions are or what we think would be the next step. It matters what that looks like in your relationship. I do think though, that our first and foremost, bar none, non-negotiable is vulnerable communication. That has to be the first. And if you don't know how to communicate, couples counseling is there for a reason. Marriage therapy is there for a reason. Please stop thinking that it's this giant fucking big old issue and we're going to be judged and I feel stupid and blah, 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 blah. Like it is our oath as therapists to do no harm and to be there and support and be this non-judgmental, unbiased person. It is our job to admit our biases. It's our job. I can very effectively work with clients who have been in a relationship where there has been infidelity and both of them are committing to work together because they're there and taking actionable steps.
Correct.
That's what's important.
I'm excited.
It doesn't matter what I think about it. It matters what your life is and what you want for your life.
Yeah. I'm excited to get to that part of the training where she talks about what happens like after an affair and like how you can set these new boundaries and stuff. But first and foremost, she says, after that event has happened, you have to establish new rules because this is a new relationship and you can't live in the, I wish it was like it was before you had an affair. You're not there.
Right, exactly. I wish it was the way that it was before. Do you? Because you guys weren't talking then. So that's how it happened.
So maybe when I'm done with the certification, we'll do a follow-up episode and I'll have more information.
We can, because I can do more studying on the Gottman method, because the Gottman is just about like, it's kind of like DBT of like building a sound house, of like building a sound relationship house and coming back to love maps and friendship maps and things like that. And basically it really is just reflecting back on, you cannot expect your relationship to blossom into something when it's just about logistical things, the kids, like whatever, and you're not having that time to talk, to communicate, to hear the other person, instead of just trying to prove a point, trying to be right, trying whatever that it is. Instead of, like, when I was doing the training, they followed this couple all the way through, and so many of the times watching their sessions go, they were missing the mark so hardcore on each other. And then with the Julie, who is the one who led them through, the wife, leading them through, being able to see like how she would link what they were both attempting to say to come to this point of like, okay, well, what is the deeper root meaning? Like, we're just attacking these certain purposes, but we're not talking about why this is important to you, why you're standing up for this, which again comes down to that communication aspect of like, you know, what were your values and, you know, morals that you learned when you were younger? What was downloaded onto you? What were your experiences? What did that look like? And that requires vulnerability, getting vulnerable with somebody, trying to understand them at the depths of their soul. And if you're not in a relationship where you feel like you can't do that with somebody, then like, what are we doing?
The couple that I'm watching currently, that only had sex like once in the past year, she is having them do what she calls sex dates. And this is like the start of increasing intimacy and like getting sex back on the table. But because it had been so long since they had sex, she's like, for the next 6 weeks, you're going to have a sex date every single week, once a week. She's like, but you're not going to have sex. Like for the first week, you're going to give her a massage and let her go to bed. He was like, so we don't have sex. And she was like, no, you're just going to give her a massage and let her go to sleep. And then the following week it's him. And then the second part of that is like, okay, well, now you can give her a massage, but you can also give her an orgasm, but you're not going to have sex. And like, you're building up to increase the intimacy and closeness versus just like diving back in and thinking that that's going to work. And it's interesting because she's like, it doesn't matter what's happening throughout the week. It doesn't matter if you're mad at each other. You have to show up. And in my head, I was like, oh, wait, because if I was mad at them, I don't think I'd want to show up. So
I wouldn't either. And that's what the Gottmans talk about, that of like coming together at this certain time of night and building the communication there. So 10 minutes once a week, or, you know, every other day, of building that communication back in. And you can talk about anything, but it can't be logistics of the day. So come with an open-ended question. They have a bunch of different card games where you can pull a card and ask your partner a question, Google 100 questions to ask your partner. Just building that time, which is where you will take your fights or your disagreements or whatever. But so much of that, we don't have time. Oh, it's just, we're too busy. Blah, 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 blah. Well, then kiss your relationship goodbye. If you're not making time for your relationship, kiss your fucking relationship goodbye.
Yep.
It's a goodbye. It takes work. It's not just going to fucking fall into place.
So much work.
So I think that.
We hope you still listen.
I hope this wasn't too aggressive. Yikes. I did get pretty passionate in it, but I do. I get very passionate about self-worth.
Sure.
Very, 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 very fucking passionate about it. So like I said in the beginning of this episode, this is a subjective podcast. These are our opinions, and we are absolutely going to talk about mental health and different aspects of it. But realistically, we are also applying the filters in which we have lived life and have learned and all of those things.
And also, we're not judging anybody.
I was just going to follow it up with that. That being said, what you do in your life is your life. And I am not making any judgments on whether you stay, whether you leave, whether you do this, whether you do that, because that's not my life. Yep. And I have no fucking business making a judgment about what you are doing in your life. And the same goes for you. I have no fucking business making a judgment about what goes on in my life. And the difference is maybe not the difference, hopefully not the difference, but I'm not picking up what your judgment is. I don't give a fuck what other people think about my life. I don't care. As should you. You should not give a fuck what other people care about your life, because here's the thing. You're living your life. Yep. You're in that situation. I am not. And for many years, I guarantee people were like, "I should stay with him. Why is this?" And I can't tell you how many times, and not even I can guarantee, because I heard it after my divorce, of how, you know, I couldn't believe it. I this, I that. So all these different thoughts and whatever about my relationship. But here's the thing. I needed every part of my journey to be where I am right now. So I
Correct.
had to stay. I had to stay. I had to go through those moments. I had to live it. I had to experience it. I had to do what I needed to do to get to the point where I am right now. And I wouldn't change it for the fucking world, because where I am right now is exactly where I needed to be and exactly where I wanted to be.
Yep.
So again, there's no judgment pass. You do you, because it's your life. I'm not living your fucking life. And I want to support you in any way that I fucking can, which is why we make these podcasts, and hope that at one point something in here resonates with you.
Yep.
So I'll get off my soapbox now. You can find us at Rewriting Her Story Podcast on Instagram and YouTube. You can email us questions, concerns, comments at rewritingherstorypodcast@gmail.com. You can find Steph at The Spooky Therapist, and you can find me at BEA_XO11. Until next time.
Bye.
Bye.